Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Saying good morning, Mr. Mayor. Hornell Mayor John Buckley live in the studio with us. Mayor John Buckley, thank you for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. It is a gorgeous morning here in the Maple City.
And in Washington, D.C., I'm sure, for the Mueller testimony.
Well, I'm not sure what the weather forecast in Washington is. I'm sure there'll be some frowny faces amongst the panel there today.
Yeah, House Judiciary Committee, we're listening to that in queue, as we say in radio. I got a little speaker here off to the side, a queue speaker. And I think we might pop in during segment 2 if things get interesting there in Washington in the Mueller testimony. Again, Mayor John Buckley, thank you for coming in.
Sure, anytime, Brian. Glad to be here.
Filling in for Dr. Nick Waddy of Alfred State, who's, I believe, in Brussels today.
Yeah, I will make one bold prediction right now, even before Mueller takes a stand and testifies before Congress, and that bold prediction is that both sides will continue to disagree on whatever he says, and they'll slice and dice his words apart and try to fit their own narratives. And
the liberal media will play certain quotes. The
exactly.
Conservative media will play certain quotes. It'll be completely different things.
And they'll pick and choose, and they'll try to pull little words and phrases out of his testimony and spin it to fit their own narratives. And we'll just continue on the road that we've been on. So that's my bold prediction for this morning.
Thank you for coming in, Mayor John Buckley. Let's talk about some city issues, starting out with city clerk, new city clerk there with Missy Logan.
Yeah, Missy Logan took over for Barb Parrott as city clerk. She had her first common council meeting Monday night. Missy's going to do a great job for us. She's a long-time employee, came out of the codes office, and we're very excited to have her on board. And Barb Parrott came out of the codes office as well. And Barb actually did two jobs. She was the assistant to the mayor and the city clerk at the same time. And, I can't say enough about Barb. We wish her all the best in retirement as she, goes on to the next phase of her life. And, she was kind of my right hand, behind the scenes. She did a lot. The Hometown Hero program, that was a real big push on our behalf. And Barb really administered that program behind the scenes and helped get that off the ground. And, we're going to miss her. Missy's going to do a great job and is already. We're very excited to have her on board.
Talking to Hornell Mayor John Buckley, we're just, 48 hours away from Gus Macker. It's going to be a busy weekend, Mayor Buckley.
Yeah, it is a busy weekend. We've got Gus Macker, HP or Hornell Partners for Growth coordinated with that, and they've got bands lined up, so we've got entertainment for all the folks that are going to flood to Maple City. And Gus Macker is always a good time. I was lucky enough to take the opening free throw last year and nailed that on my first try, Brian. So that's my claim to fame in the sports department this morning. But it's so nice seeing so many people come to Hornell, and it really, aside from the event itself, it really helps out the local businesses and local economy. There's just that, infusion of capital. The hotels are filled up, the restaurants are filled, the supermarkets and gas stations are busier. So, bringing that many people into the city, over the course of a weekend is really a boon to the local economy. And we're always excited to partner with the YMCA, and I can't say enough about all the volunteers, throughout the years that the YMCA has had just to make this event a reality. And the city chips in. Obviously, our DPW goes down and sets up and blocks off the streets and empties the garbage throughout the weekend. And police and fire, we put some extra people on, just manpower in case there's any dehydration or even turned ankles or knees sometimes need attending to. So it's a team lift between the Y and the city, and we're just glad to do it. It's a great community event.
Yeah, so many people. Do you come in from out of town? Do you have a sense of how many?
It's hard to say, and we don't have we don't have turnstiles to keep track of how many people, but it's in the thousands though. I mean, there's no doubt
sure.
about that. It's well into the thousands, and some years it's a little more than others, and like I said, it's a big event. Gus Macker has a loyal following, so a lot of years you can kind of have the same teams, and we try to get new ones to come along as well. So I don't know the exact number, but it's a big number.
Talking live this morning with Hornell Mayor John Buckley, downtown revitalization. We've heard that phrase a lot in the news lately.
Yes, so the city has applied for the DRI funding grant for the last. This is actually the fourth year that the city's applied for it, and this year we actually made it into the top three. So recently we sent a delegation and presented in front of a committee, and we're waiting for the results. Hopefully we'll find out very soon, maybe as soon as September. We feel we have a very strong application and made a very strong presentation, and it's a great team lift. I can't say enough for Heather Reynolds, who is our city planner, and she wrote the bulk of the grant application, and it just did a fabulous job in doing so. And we've had input from former Mayor Sean Hogan, who we started applying this back when he was mayor, and kept on doing so as I became mayor. And what this grant is, it's a $10 million grant to the winning municipality, and how the state administers it. The state is divided up into 10 different areas, and in each of the 10 districts has an opportunity to apply. So if your municipality is in one of the districts, you basically put your grant application in, and it's competitive, and you go head to head against others, and it's a winner take all. So the winner gets the $10 million, and you can apply that to different things that you've outlined in your application. And we feel we have a strong application. We're very excited. So just kind of keep us in your thoughts, Brian, as we go into August and September, and like I said, we're in that top three. So I'm very hopeful that we'll be the winner this year.
Great news. Mayor John Buckley, the Chesapeake Bay watershed. What's going on there?
Well, this is something that's been in the news over the years, and the Canisteel River, actually, if you follow it long enough, it'll end up in the Chesapeake Bay. And so a lot of municipalities that have wastewater facilities, such as Hornell and Canisteel and so on, our effluent goes back into the Canisteel River after it's treated. Well, when it gets down to the Chesapeake Bay, they have, over the years, they've had some issues with high concentration levels of nitrogen and so on. So they've put in these regulations, which, the city has always complied with. Well, there's just always that next level or next layer of regulations that is, imposed on the people that have those facilities, such as Hornell. And so recently the state changed our speedies permit, and they're mandating us to install a disinfection, a UV disinfection system. So obviously there's a cost to that, and the cost is approximately $1.6 million. And it's something that we don't expect our local taxpayers to shoulder the entire burden. So we're applying for $1 million. $1 million through the Water Quality Improvement Program through the state of New York, and we're also going to try to track down some other funding streams too, because when these state mandates come down, it's all well and good when the state puts up some money. Obviously, the municipality will have to shoulder some of the burden, but we do all we can, and we try to track down every single funding stream available to lessen that burden on the local taxpayers. But it's one of those things that you have to do, and we'll do it in the next couple of years, and we'll move on.
We're talking infrastructure here in segment one with the Hornell Mayor John Buckley. We may be talking about the Mueller hearing, which is going on right now in segment two. I'm kind of listening to ABC's coverage of it at the same time that I'm listening to Mayor Buckley's answers.
I'm trying to peek over your shoulder, Brian, to see the screen. What looks like they're all just trying to take their seats right now. Is that what's happening?
They've been talking so far. He's standing up and right hand up in the air, so he's apparently being sworn in. So far, he's been speaking with Downstate Congressman Jerry Nadler and Georgia Congressman Doug Collins.
Interesting stuff. Well,
we'll get into that a little in segment 2. We're talking infrastructure, Hornell infrastructure here in segment 1. Bridge work in 2020, Mayor Buckley.
Well, while Washington spins its wheels and accomplishes nothing, we're busy here in the city of Hornell, and we're planning on replacing 3 bridges next year, and that's a lot of bridge work in 1 year. But in 2020, we've got 3 bridges that'll be replaced, and the first bridge. They'll probably be all working simultaneously, but Seneca Street over by the American Legion, the Seneca Street Bridge, that's going to be replaced next year, Brian. As you travel down Main Street and head towards East Main, not the East Main Street Bridge, but the box culvert directly past it that goes over Chauncey Run, that'll be replaced. And finally, the Canasteel Street Bridge over in the 9th Ward will be replaced. And that bridge has been a thorn in my side for some years, and we've been trying to get the funding for it. We finally did, and we're very happy and grateful that all 3 of these bridges will be replaced in 1 year. That's a heavy lift to have 3 bridges done in 1 year, but next year will be a big year. Obviously, motorists will be inconvenienced to some degree, but I think the inconvenience is well worth the 3 new bridges, and these bridges will last 50, 60 years or so. So. We won't have to worry about them for a long time.
Road work. Any road work coming up in the remainder of the summer or this fall? And what have you got lined up for 2020, Mayor Buckley?
Yeah, actually, we're busy right now. We've got a few streets milled up. Lower Buffalo Street is milled up, and that's right past the intermediate school. That street has been in really bad condition for a long time, so we put some new curbing in there late last year. Got it milled up for getting it ready for new blacktop this year. Hart Street over in the 7th Ward, we just recently milled that, so that'll be receiving some new blacktop hopefully in the next few weeks here, and also Spencer Ave. Spencer Ave has been kind of I compare it to the surface of the moon. That's how rough it's been on Spencer Ave lately, and these big rainstorms we have certainly don't help, because you have the town of Hornellsville right above it, and you get a lot of debris and stone and dirt that washes right down there and has gotten under the surface and just really wreaked havoc on that. So we thought it was time to replace that. I worked closely with Alderman Steve Shinnebarger, the alderman over in the 9th Ward, and we sat down and discussed it. And originally Spencer Ave wasn't on our list to do this year, but it was just in such bad shape that we decided to put it on the list and get it done this year. We are looking at some other streets as well. Obviously, Fairlawn Ave, where the Reedman apartments are.
Those apartments, yeah.
Yep. It's if you haven't been up there, it's absolutely gorgeous up there. They've done such a wonderful job, and they're just about filled too, and which is a really nice thing. And part of our agreement with Reedman is once they were finished with the heavy construction, we would go in and put the new road in there. Obviously, the road was pretty narrow and got chewed up quite a bit after all that construction. So they're pretty much finished now, so we've begun the construction phase of putting a new street in for up there, which will make it really nice. And next year, obviously, we do have a running list that we have of streets that are in need. So we'll see how much money is available. I can't urge our state reps enough to keep pushing for more CHIPS funding, which it's that funding stream through the state that pays for a lot of our street paving, and I tell you, Brian, it's never enough. It's so hard to keep up with streets, because in Western New York, where we live, we have harsh winters, and because we're out plowing and we treat the roads constantly, with salt, it takes a toll on the roads, and it is what it is. And we do the best we can with what we have, but we could always use a little bit more of that help. So. But we'll keep pushing and doing what we can. So yeah, so you know what, like I said, while Washington dithers, we're busy here in the Maple City.
And they are dithering right now, Mayor Buckley. Mueller is speaking right now, and judging by the little that I've heard of him versus the congressman, he's being a lot more. And I'm looking at a little video here as I listen to ABC's coverage. He's saying less and is being more careful, I think, than the congressmen who have spoken so far.
And
he's
that's
a little
usually
more guarded.
Yeah, that's usually the case, and you know, and I've seen Mueller over the years in different capacities and different roles, and he's usually pretty measured. He's not one to fly off the cuff. I think he's got, you know, one of those. His temperament is pretty even. You're not going to see too many highs or lows. He's, you know, pretty consistent throughout. You know, what he actually says will be dissected and sliced and diced and spun to fit people's narratives, whether it's the right or the left. And you know, it's amazing because, you know, you and I we'll sit there and watch this and listen to it, and the people listening to this radio show will do the same thing, and our takeaways will be vastly different than you know, when you turn on the cable news and listen to the prognosticators, because you know, they'll spin it a certain way to fit whatever narrative they're trying to push on the people watching at the time. And you know, it's just amazing how this happens. You know, you can have, you know, two different people listening to the same thing and have two completely different takeaways. And you know, that's I guess just a reflection of the times that we're living in.
That'll be the case today, Mayor John Buckley. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Are you looking for new skills that will help you land a promotion? Is it time to change careers? SUNY Corning Community College has accelerated degree options designed for busy people with busy lives. Give them just one night a week at Hornell High School, take the rest of the courses online, and in 16 months you can have your associate's degree. Degree options available in criminal justice, human services, and business administration. Find out more at www.corning-cc.edu or call 607-962-9151.
Saying good morning now to meteorologist Rob Carolyn, who's predicting rain today.
Yeah, there is the chance for an isolated shower or thunderstorm this afternoon, Brian. There is a very weak disturbance drifting along the south side of Lake Erie this morning. It's produced a little bit of rain around Cleveland, and there is the potential that during the afternoon it may be able to produce enough instability over the southern tier that a few of us may deal with a passing shower or thunderstorm. We also may have to contend with some afternoon instability tomorrow as well that could produce a shower or an isolated storm. Other than that, we look pretty good the next couple of days. Big high building out of the central part of the country will control the weather through the weekend. We should see a fair amount of sunshine through the southern tier. Today looks partly sunny. Watch for an isolated shower storm this afternoon. High temperature 75 to 80. Sunrise was at 5:56 this morning. It'll set tonight at 8:38. Now tonight we should be clear to partly cloudy. Temperatures overnight 55 to 60. Tomorrow partial sun. Late in the day there's the chance for another thunderstorm. High temperatures are going to be right around 80 degrees tomorrow afternoon. It'll be clear, comfortable tomorrow night, low of 60. Looking ahead to Friday, we're sunny 80 to 85. We'll hang on to sunshine into the upcoming weekend, Brian.
Thank you, meteorologist Rob Carolyn. Back with Hornell Mayor John Buckley. Mayor Buckley, he's speaking now. Robert Mueller is speaking now. One of the things he said, and I caught this during the break, and the little Q speaker here in the studio, is that Robert Mueller, the former special counsel, said he's not going to comment on the Attorney General, and he's not going to comment on Congress. I think that's his way of fighting off gotcha questions from both sides.
I think so, and I think that's. I think you're right on the mark. It's more of a defensive measure, and you know he's kind of drawing a line in the sand, so to speak, is saying, okay, this is the boundaries I'm setting before we actually get started with this, and you know that's probably a smart move on his behalf. I don't know that it'll work. I don't know. You know, at the end of the day, I don't know that these congressmen or congresswomen really care one way or the other what kind of stance he takes initially obviously they're going to ask what they want to ask, and they're going to ask it the way they want to ask it in order to try to get the answer that they're looking for, so they can take those sound bites back to their district and play it on their local news. And
I think
so
everybody has 5 minutes each
Yes.
to ask the questions, with the exception of Nadler, who's chairing.
Yeah, and I believe that's correct. And what you'll see from many of these Congress people is grandstanding, because that's their time to shine. That's their time to get those one-liners out there that hopefully the media will latch onto and run with, and they can post it on their social media pages and all that. And that's a sad thing, because I've watched many of these types of hearings over the years, and too many times either the congressmen or the senators try to grandstand and really make a name for themselves, rather than just ask the hard questions and really seek out the truth.
They're looking for what's going to show up in the sound bites in the news.
Exactly. They're in too many cases they try to elevate their own careers, and that's really a shame, because that's not really what public service is all about.
Let's join right now, see what they're saying. The Mueller hearing going on now.
You were talking about incidents, quote, in which the president sought to use his official power outside of usual channels, unquote, to exert undue influence over your investigations. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, am I correct that on page 7 of volume 2 of your report you wrote, quote, the president became aware that his own conduct was being investigated in an obstruction of justice inquiry. At that point, the president engaged in a second phase of conduct involving public attacks on the investigation.
So, downstate Congressman Jerry Nadler there, you can see that they're trying to set the stage for more investigations, possible impeachment.
Well, Nadler is part of that. Nadler is part of that group that no matter what, if there's no collusion, then there's still collusion in their minds. They just will not give it up. I mean, Mueller could sit there all day and say there's no collusion, there's no proof, there's no evidence, there's nothing to, nothing impeachable here. Then that still won't be good enough for Nadler and the Democrats, because they just have it ingrained in their mind. Whether they truly believe it or not, they're just in that lane where they can't get out of, and I think that's just kind of playing to their base. I think the hardcore leftists out there, they placate to them and they try to appease them, whether they believe it or not. And I think there's some true believers out there, but I think there's some that don't believe it, but they'll just go along with it anyway.
We've been speaking with Hornell Mayor John Buckley. Congressman Tom Reed has a press conference, I believe, at 10:15 this morning, and we'll get his take at that time on the border detention center that he saw in McAllen, Texas.
And we'll look forward to hearing that. So
I've had a few people ask me what's Reed saying, because he hasn't made any public statements yet about what he saw. Schumer was very critical. Reed has not yet, so we'll see what he has to say.
Well, if Congress would just do their job and pass some laws and actually enforce the laws that they have on the books, we wouldn't have to worry about it.
You got that right. Mayor John Buckley, thanks for coming in.
Always a great time, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Elizabeth Warren, do you know she used to represent DuPont?